Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Light Reading Podcast, the Notebook Dump Edition. Congratulations, you made it all the way to the end of 2022, because I think we're not going to do another one of these for the entire year, which sounds like like a very fine. It has some finality to that declaration, but don't worry, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. But we're taking some break for the holidays, but not just yet. I'm Phil Harvey. I'm the editor here at Light Reading.
Hey, I'm Jeff Baumgartner, senior editor at Light Reading.
Mike Dano, editor here too.
Kelsey Zeiser, senior editor at Light Reading.
Nicole Ferraro, also an editor here.
Very good. Kelsey, I guess we should start with you since you are A, on the road, and B, have a plane to catch.
Yeah, I'm in
What
Viva.
the heck have you been up to this week?
Viva Las Vegas.
Woof.
Oh, you know, just in Vegas, getting cool hats. Do you guys like it?
Nice.
For everybody listening, Kelsey has a hat that says Kelsey on it.
Yeah.
That's what all it is, which
So
is awesome.
I don't want to forget who I am. And I don't want you to forget who I am either.
I thought that was another thing they were requiring at airport security, but go on.
Why you? So I'm here at the Palo Alto Ignite 22 event. It's been packed. I think they had like 3,000 attendees, and then Hassan Minhaj, I think that's correct, the comedian with The Daily Show, he was the MC, so that was pretty fun. But they've just been talking about some updates to their different security products, talking a lot about a proactive versus a reactive approach to security, which I think makes sense. It's better to, try and thwart the attack on the front end. There was also a Women in Tech luncheon, which was really good to hear from Wendy Whitman with Palo Alto, but also Lindsay with AT&T. And they were talking about relationship equity. So I'll have something up, article on that coming soon as well. It's been a really full, busy week.
Excellent. Yeah, the Palo Alto is kind of they're kind of de facto a lot of the security industry in the telecom space. I mean, they're an awfully big company and they have tons of customers and partners. So I imagine you got a pretty good cross section of.
AT&T was in the exhibit hall. Google Cloud was here. AWS. They were also talking about their Prisma Cloud suite, which is integrating with cloud providers to ensure security to cloud applications. So we got to see some demos of that. Also, a demo of Prisma Access, which is their SASE application. And then, I got to hear all the security acronyms like SIM and SOC, and not the kind you put on your feet.
Right. And you'll be explaining these at some point in podcast or future articles?
Yeah, for sure. So as I understand it, the SIM is a way, for like the past 20 years, it hasn't really been updated much, but it's a way to aggregate all the threats and analyze them, but it can be really complicated to go through that number of threats. So they were talking about automating that process using machine learning to, reduce thousands of threats down to, I think around 150. And then from there, reduce it further to the point where you have like 8 manual threats that a SOC analyst would need to review. And SOC is a security operations center. But I'm sure they have cool socks on their feet too.
I guess you have to
Go with your hat.
Sort of a marketing gimmick.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Do you think there are SOC analysts for the actual SOC industry? The fabric one? Because that would be cool, and I might be quitting this job to go do that.
That would be exciting.
That'd be very focused.
Nicole Ferraro, SOC analyst.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Link to it. Yeah, sure.
I
That
do like
sounds really,
socks.
yeah, that sounds really relaxing. I'll be like,
Sorry to
this one's
interrupt. I
not
got
soft
really
enough.
excited about that.
No, you're talking socks. I get it. We, we all have our
Booty
hobbies and
We all
socks,
have
habits.
some
fad or
exactly.
trend?
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
These are not the kinds
Mm.
of things we'll be covering next year, but
Yeah.
but it's very good for this podcast. Speaking of Nicole, shall we
Sure.
find
Yeah.
out what's in your notebook this week?
Why not? Why not? I thought I would end the year by sitting through a nearly 4-hour congressional hearing on broadband. A little celebration I planned for myself.
Right.
So
That
just I
giant
wrote
bottle of
about that.
vodka behind you. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I wrote about some takeaways from that this week. So if anyone's wondering what our federal government might be looking at or getting up to with regard to the broadband space in the coming year, there are a few things. Number one, the Affordable Connectivity Program, which we've mentioned before, needs money if it's going to continue. So there may be some effort to get that funded again. Right now, it's projected to run out in like 2025, and there's roughly 15 million households relying on it currently, as well as a lot of ISPs that are enjoying that subsidy. So I think we're going to be seeing some extra pressure coming next year from advocacy groups and the ISPs to get some more money for that, but it remains to be seen in a divided Congress. The other sort of bigger issue with regard to future network funding is that there's a lawsuit with the Fifth Circuit questioning the constitutionality of the Universal Service Fund, which, could potentially blow up the entire industry. But we'll deal with that as it comes. So people are very stressed about that. We've touched upon Gigi Sohn's nomination to the FCC as commissioner, which has yet to be confirmed. There's moderate hope that the Senate will do that before they go home this year, but it's nowhere to be seen as far as I can tell as of this recording. But next year, the Senate is still in Democratic hands, so it's expected it'll get done. The NTIA's rules for the BEAD program will continue to be scrutinized until the BEAD funding starts to roll out to the states. So we can see a lot of that come under scrutiny in congressional hearings next year and in advocacy efforts from the wireless industry that's still mad that it's being left out by virtue of the NTIA not allowing unlicensed spectrum projects to receive funding through BEAD. And then we have just ongoing issues around permitting, overbuilding, that's stuff that the industry is going to continue to bang on about while this funding is being deployed. And everyone is still mad about broadband maps. So the FCC released its broadband map last month, and everyone is, working on submitting their challenges. States are complaining that there are tens of thousands of locations missing, and lots are complaining about it overstating coverage. So we're basically right now, the deadline is still January 13th for challenges to be submitted, but pretty much everyone's saying that's not enough time, especially given we're about to go into a couple holiday weeks here.
Right.
So we will see what happens if they extend that deadline. That is sort of up to the FCC and NTIA to figure out if they can extend that deadline and still allow time for NTIA to take the finalized-ish map and turn it into BEAD allocations by June, as it said it would.
Following
Nicole, have
go
you?
ahead.
Have you submitted your challenges?
Yes.
I think you said last
Yes,
time
I
you were gonna
did.
work on those.
Yeah, I submitted my specific challenge for my location where I live.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Following up on your admonition from 2 podcasts ago,
Yeah.
I am going to do the same over the holiday break. And so by
Excellent.
1st of next year, I should have, I'll check out my neighborhood, my surrounding area, probably do one for my parents' area as well, because we've run into problems getting them kind of competitive broadband. So so we'll see what they're claiming, and then I'll see if there's any comments to be made or anything to be added. But I everybody should do this. This is something that the government needs to know, and also it's a good check against the industry's promotion of itself, because the industry wants to convince everybody that everybody gets up to something speed, and we know in a lot of cases, if you're not getting fiber directly to the house, then those are just guesses based on what the equipment's capable of, not necessarily what the network is delivering on a consistent basis. So and I think think in general the service providers would agree that this is a healthy process too, because if they have to go in and improve their networks, then they get to help themselves to more funding. So it's not like I'm dissing anybody here, but everybody please do try to participate if you possibly can.
Mike refuses.
I don't want to do that.
Mike
not
doesn't
doing
have
it.
to do anything he
Well,
doesn't want.
Okay,
That's
good.
in his
I
contract.
really don't. I really don't want to do that.
Well, Nicole, how hard was it? Was it difficult to go in there? You're just like, you're
No,
wrong.
It was
How much detail did you have to give? Yeah.
It was very easy. I mean, for the particular challenge that I submitted, it was easy because it was a challenge to say, you're not listing my location as broadband serviceable. But if you're going to be challenging the actual, so that's a location challenge. Then there's availability challenges that has more to do with the service providers are claiming. That might be, it's still easy to submit, but it then may get you, dealing with a service provider to respond to that challenge or to say, here's why you're wrong. And then it might be just a little bit more complicated of a process going down the line, but still worth doing, Mike.
Just browbeat him into submission.
Is this like the episode where I convinced everyone to vote?
This is like a reality TV show where we get to have like a producer conversation off mic where Nicole's like, I used to like Mike, but then he stopped caring about broadband and he says he hates the troops.
Yeah,
I had to reevaluate my opinion of him.
Yeah, my internet went out, so I can't do it.
Oh, okay.
It's
My internet went out.
So I'd do it if I could.
That would be the best excuse ever. Yeah.
Guess those aren't humanitarian awards behind you, Mike. Don't want to help Americans get internet access.
Right.
No, it's because
desperately
Matt can
need.
run real fast.
Oh, okay.
I'm secretly a communist, and I just don't want to do it.
Oh, okay. Well, you should feel like everybody should do it.
Well, in that case,
I don't
you
know,
should be.
maybe
What's going? Yeah,
Breaking
Oh, maybe I
news.
should. I don't know. Whatever the one was, I don't have to do that. That's the one.
maybe
I like.
you're a dictator.
Well, before Mike's
Yeah, that's-
broadband runs out, we should let him tell us what he's up
Oh,
to
yeah.
this
That's
week.
enough, yeah.
What we should be looking for as far as
Yeah.
stuff he's either reported on or stuff that he has coming up.
Yeah, so right, I have stuff coming up. So as Jeff well knows, is that the big CES show happens next month, and Jeff and I are scheduled to hop on a plane and head over there to warm and sunny Las Vegas. And for anyone who's never been to CES, the trade show, it is enormous. It is it's almost unfathomable how big that show often can be. It's almost twice the size of the Mobile World Congress show that happens every year in Barcelona in our industry. But this year it looks like it's not going to be quite as big. They're expecting, they've got a target goal of 100,000 attendees, which would be a dramatic increase from last year, but it's well off the biggest size prior to the pandemic of like 170,000 people attending that show. So it still should be pretty big, but I sort of asked around this week about who's going to go and what's going to happen, and it really doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot of stuff happening in our industry. AT&T will have a booth. Samsung will probably have a big presence there, but by and large, it does not look like a lot of our service provider people are gonna be there in force, which is a little bit of a change. Verizon kicked off its big 5G launch in 2019 at CES, and T-Mobile had hoped to make a big splash at the 2021 CES, but that sort of got nixed by COVID, and so Jeff and I are going to go. We'll see what's there, but expectations are pretty low for CES 2023.
Yeah, I think from my end, pretty much agree. Like I tried to look through the agenda and the keynotes and try to see, hey, what's going to be germane to us. And it's a little difficult to find a lot of that. I think Xumo, the Comcast Charter joint venture that's going to make smart TVs and streaming devices and so forth. I believe they're going to be there doing something, as well as Xperi, that has TiVo. They're going to come out with their TVs. I mean, I think that piece of it will have a little bit, but we don't have like Comcast doing a keynote like they did, many years ago to kind of outline, yeah, a bunch of stuff that they're doing. So some of that's going to be muted. I agree. So that's going to be like trying to pick your spots, I think, and trying to get as much face to face with the companies that you do cover.
Yeah, the one big announcement I know that's going to happen, if you want to call it big, is there's a company called Bullet that makes Android like heavy duty Android phones, and they're going to announce their phone that can connect to satellites. So that's one thing that'll happen next month.
Yeah, I suspect we're going to get a lot more satellite to phone activity happening in the next year or so. I think that'll be a great way to kind of kick off that discussion.
Yep.
So that sounds good. Now I'm glad you guys are covering CES. Keep in mind you're going there just days after Kelsey has left the place completely trashed. So, just apologize to people that you run into, and especially blackjack dealers and people in the bar and whatever.
Hopefully she leaves us some money.
Yeah. And Kelsey just dropped offline. She might be heading to her flight.
I think I'm back.
Oh no, she's back.
Can you hear me?
She's back.
Okay. Yeah, everybody froze for a second, and I was just like,
wasn't sure if it was hotel Wi-Fi or
she's frozen with a
Vegas.
very interesting look on her face.
Hilarious face. Of course she would freeze in a hilarious position.
Oh no.
No, you're fine. You're back.
Was I like
even better?
Let's see. Let's just see how it goes before we all freeze and can't move. Jeff, what you want to round out what you've been up to this week or what you have coming up?
Yeah, we talked about CES already, but I think the big thing this week was Charter with their new CEO, Chris Winfrey, did an investor meeting that covered a ton of ground to talk about the company's plans and strategies and so forth under him. Now, I think from a high level standpoint, there weren't like a lot of massive changes like, hey, we're going to go in this completely different direction. But they did kind of fine tune some of the things that have been underway. And I think one of the big takeaways was the network evolution plan, because we had already heard that they were kind of fixating on like an architecture with virtual CMTS and remote PHY, which kind of matches up with what Comcast is doing. But it turns out that it's a little more complicated and somewhat fragmented than that. They kind of announced like this 3-step plan that's going to vary based on different portions of their footprint. So a portion of the footprint's like 15%, they're going to move the network to 1.2 gigahertz and do a high split that'll give them more upstream capacity and get them up to like that 1 gig level for the upstream. And then another half of their footprint, they're going to do 1.2 gigahertz, but also do distributed access and a virtual CMTS and get that underway in like early 2024. And then another 35%, the remaining portion of the footprint is going to do kind of a full-blown DOCSIS 4.0 deployment up to 1.8 gigahertz. And I think the obvious question coming out of that was, okay, why they didn't really articulate why they're kind of doing this step function, based on different portions of their footprint. I think I asked them about it. They're like, well, we're not really talking about it, but I think it makes sense that they're doing it that way based on the level of competition and the state of the condition of the network and in certain segments of their network. Seems to make sense. So it's not like a big uniform change that they're going to approach, but they are going to upgrade pretty much all the network. It's just different approaches for certain portions of it. And then the other kind of big thing, I mean, again, they covered a lot of ground, but they're talking up this thing they're going to call the Spectrum Mobile Network. And when you boil it down, it's a combination of the MVNO they have with Verizon, their own Wi-Fi network, in home, out of home, and then also what they're going to do with CBRS. And right now they have it deployed with employees, I think, in one major market. They haven't announced if it was like LA or something, but I thought the other interesting thing to kind of come out of that, they're going to be very judicious in terms of how they're going to roll out CBRS. They're not going to be going crazy on it. They're going to be very judicious about where they're going to get the most return on the investment. So that's a little bit different attitude, I think, on CBRS than we heard from them in the past. Similar, but they're really they're definitely doesn't sound like they're going to be rolling it out really fast, across all their network. But the idea is to put that in place so they can offload a lot of data and save some of on the MVNO costs. And then the last thing, when you kind of put it all together, they're talking about the capex. They're gonna see a higher level of capex because of the HFC deployments, or it's going to be like $100 per household, but they're also doing a lot of network expansion adjacent to the existing networks and some of the RDOF work. And whenever you're raising capex, whether it's justified or not, the market is going to have a reaction, and they had kind of a negative reaction to that. So they're kind of feeling that this week outside of all the updates on the strategy. So
because
there was a lot of ground they covered, though, as you can tell.
Investors want pure profit and zero expense. That's their that's what makes them comfortable.
Right. Yeah.
Now, thanks for that update. I think in general they're just trying to. I mean, it does help their investor positioning to have a network that they don't have to spend a lot on, comparatively speaking, to raise the floor for where their least competitive broadband services are. That's what it seems like they're doing here. Is they're raising the minimum on the wireless and the wired side, so that they're just not as easy pickings as they could be against T-Mobile and other companies that maybe they aren't used to competing against, and suddenly have taken hold in a lot of their markets.
Yeah, I think that $100 per home pass for the HFC upgrades was on the low end, I think, of what the expectation was, and it's about half of where Comcast is doing. But their approach is a lot different. They're not being as segmented as Charter is. So I think that all kind of factors together. But yeah, they didn't get a lot of love, even for that number. So.
Well, and they've lost the cash cow of pay TV. It's like it's not nearly as big a business or as big of a revenue spinner as it used to be.
Right.
So now when they make network adjustments and upgrades, the costs are sort of seen more directly, whereas before it was almost obscured by all the money coming in from people who were paying $80 a month and didn't know any better. And that would be me, by the way. But now, now people are taking that $80 and they're giving it to other companies. I don't think they're necessarily saving any money by cutting the cord, but they are spreading it around differently. So that makes something. Anyway, thanks for keeping an eye on that. That'll be interesting to see, because they're a major U.S. service provider. So it'll be interesting to see where they end up in this.
Yep.
Let's see. Kelsey has left the room, literally this chat room that we're in here to record the podcast, but also her hotel room as she's scrambling to get to the airport and evade the authorities who are probably looking for her. So, and she'll probably hear this later and either laugh or send me a nasty note. But let's see.
I don't see that second part happening. I'll be honest.
Yeah, no, she doesn't seem. She's not a.
Imagine this was the thing
vindictive
that
type.
set her off to send you like just everything she's ever been mad about.
That was the last straw.
That was the last straw.
I'm sure it'll happen at some point. Yeah.
I mean,
She's bottling a lot of it up, and I'm sure it'll come my way eventually.
Tipping point has been reached. Yes.
Yeah. She's all good natured, but I mean, having to work with me daily, I can totally see her just getting to a point where she's just like, I used to be a calm person, and she loses it. as so many have. Let's be honest. Anyway, before I lie down on the couch and give you more detail, let's wrap this up because we're hitting about the 25-minute mark. We have a whole bunch of year-end content to get to, so the site is going to be a little less active over the next couple of weeks after you hear this. It won't be completely inactive. There will be stuff that we're doing on a daily basis that gives you nice recaps of things we've covered well during the year and a lot of things we're looking forward to covering and what we think is going to happen in the year ahead. So I hope you do keep checking out lightreading.com on a daily basis as you already do. Anything else, guys, before we sign off?
Okay, I'll say one thing. Are you guys
a big deep breath and it made me nervous?
I have something that I wanted to share this week. Are you guys paying attention to the Chat GPT open AI bot thing? Because it's going to replace you in like 3 weeks.
Actually, it created me. I'm
as a
here
family
right
member.
now,
As a,
Explain what that is.
So I'll do the best I can. It's basically an AI bot that knows everything, and I can't get into it. You can ask it to basically do your job for you and it'll do it. And whether you're a doctor, a SOC analyst, we're basically all in very big trouble here. However, I did want to say, because my brother was sending me screenshots of all of the queries it was sending the bot. My brother's a he, not an it. He was sending the bot and what the bot was responding. So I asked my brother to ask the bot, what is the relevance of the FCC's broadband map to the BEAD program? And the bot wrote I asked it to write an article about it. So now I'm talking about the bot. It wrote a whole article, oh my gosh, about what I asked, but it did not make the connection that the FCC's broadband map determines each state allocation of funding. So ChatGPT is not coming for me yet. Now, this was a week ago. It may have already learned this part and probably figured out exactly when and how I'm going to die. But in the moment, I felt like, okay, I have not yet been replaced by
job security, the BEAD program.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about myself.
With computers just yet.
Yeah. In your face, robots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
We
still need Nicole digging through those filings and asking people questions. Although I think she would be the first to invest if it actually did read the filings for her and summarize in a paragraph for him. I think.
We'll see. I don't know. I love those filings so much.
Well, I mean, but your job I'm trying to preserve your income now and then also your future earnings as a SOC analyst. We need to.
Okay. No, I appreciate it.
We need to make sure this thing only gets so smart, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what
I mean. It's already replaced your brother, which is what.
Well, actually, my brother works in IT, and it asked it he was having trouble with something, and he asked it for the answer. He tried the bot's answer, and the bot failed, and my brother figured out the answer on his own. So the Ferraro family specifically is safe. I cannot speak for anybody else.
Have you seen your brother? Because I think it actually replaced him.
This is a very good.
It could be.
I'm in a Reddit group right now, and it's telling me that this is possible. So
this is such a good point.
Okay,
my brother's gone. You're right.
Oh man, that was tough.
It's an it now.
Yeah, that's right. You'll just have to keep asking him things. That's how you.
Your brother's an AI. Sorry. Yeah.
My brother, the AI. That'll be my next one-woman show.
Oh, my very good. Yeah.
Forward to that,
man. Okay, well, in 2023, we will let you know how this all turns out if we all use the chat AI thing, whatever it's called. We'll also we'll sell tickets to Nicole's upcoming one-woman show as soon as they become available.
Thank you.
And anyway, pat yourself on the back. You made it through 2022, and that certainly wasn't easy. And this is your notebook dump for the week ending December 16th, 2022. We'll see you next year. Bye, everybody. There's no audible bye. You guys are just going to...
Oh, sorry. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Love you.
Year. See you in 2023. Peace out.
Does not compute.